You are standing on a battlefield. You look across the field at your enemy, the toxic coworker who actively sabotages you, the manipulator who gaslights you, or the narcissist who drains your life force. You look at them and you make a fatal, catastrophic calculation. You lower your weapon. You decide that the best way to win the war is to show them how incredibly kind, forgiving, and understanding you are. You believe that if you just shower them with enough empathy, they will eventually realize the error of their ways, drop their own weapons, and become your friend. You believe that your niceness is a universal solvent that can melt the coldest, darkest hearts. Niccolo Machiavelli looked at this exact strategy over 500 years ago and identified it as the most dangerous psychological trap in human history. Machiavelli completely rejected the romantic, socially conditioned notion that kindness cures evil. He understood a terrifying reality about the architecture of human perception. When you show endless, unconditional kindness to a psychological predator, they do not see a saint. They see an absolute pathetic lack of self-preservation. They look at your empathy and recognize it not as a strength, but as a highly exploitable, highly predictable flaw in your source code. You are suffering right now because you are trapped in the delusion of the pacifist's ego. You believe that your refusal to fight back makes you morally superior. You wear your victimhood like a heavy golden crown, completely unaware that the predator placed it on your head to keep you weighed down while they empty your pockets. To survive in a world governed by Machiavellian predators, you must completely deconstruct your understanding of kindness. You must recognize the 3 lethal phases of the kindness trap, because your desire to be a good person is the exact weapon they are using to destroy you. The first phase of the trap is the illusion of mutual ethics. You assume that everyone operates with the same moral compass that you do. You think that because you feel intense guilt when you hurt someone, the predator must also feel guilt. You project your own humanity onto a creature that has completely uninstalled that software. Machiavelli warned that a man who wishes to act purely in a world of men who are not pure will inevitably come to ruin. When you offer a narcissist the benefit of the doubt, you are bringing a treaty to a creature that only understands leverage. The predator does not value your kindness, they calculate its utility. They know that your mutual ethics prevent you from retaliating, which means they can attack you with absolute impunity. You have guaranteed them a zero-risk environment for their abuse. The second phase is the escalation of contempt. You believe that enduring abuse without retaliating proves your strength. You think, I am so strong, I can take it. You wait for the moment when the manipulator finally respects your resilience. That moment will never arrive. Machiavelli observed that men are driven by 2 principal impulses: love and fear. Because love is voluntary and easily broken, it is inherently weak. Fear, however, is a mathematical consequence that never fails. When you constantly forgive a predator, you completely remove the element of fear from the equation. And when a predator no longer fears your consequences, they do not begin to love you. They begin to despise you. They view your infinite forgiveness as a repulsive weakness. Every time you accept their fake apology, every time you let a boundary slide to keep the peace, their contempt for you multiplies. They escalate their abuse not out of malice, but out of sheer boredom. They are pushing the limits of your reality just to see how much degradation you will tolerate before you finally break. Your kindness does not pacify them, it radicalizes them. The final, most agonizing phase is the weaponization of your guilt. When the abuse finally becomes so extreme that your biological survival instincts override your pacifist ego, you attempt to push back. You finally raise your voice. You finally set a hard boundary. The predator has been waiting for this exact moment. Because you have spent the entire relationship establishing yourself as the endlessly kind, accommodating saint, the moment you display even a fraction of anger, the predator immediately flips the script. They clutch their pearls. They accuse you of being toxic, aggressive, and entirely out of control. They weaponize your own established identity against you. They use your own deep-seated desire to be a good person as a psychological leash. You immediately feel guilty for losing your temper. You apologize for reacting to their abuse. You retreat back into your pacifist shell, completely surrendering your newfound strength. The predator wins because they successfully convinced you that defending your own life makes you the villain. How do you survive in a world where your most celebrated virtues are actually your most fatal vulnerabilities? How do you escape the pacifist's ego and stop enabling the predators who feed on your decency? You must execute a violent philosophical awakening and embrace the doctrine of armed kindness. Armed kindness is the absolute realization that true goodness cannot exist without the terrifying capacity for immediate, overwhelming violence, whether physical, professional, or psychological. A sheep is not kind because it doesn't bite the wolf. A sheep is simply incapable of biting. True kindness only exists when you possess the fangs to destroy your enemy, but you consciously choose to keep your mouth closed. You must integrate your shadow. You must cultivate your capacity for ruthlessness. When you encounter a Machiavellian manipulator, you do not offer them unconditional empathy. You offer them a cold, mathematically precise perimeter. You establish a boundary backed by a terrifying consequence. You make it explicitly clear that your kindness is a highly conditional luxury, and the absolute second they disrespect the perimeter, that luxury is permanently revoked. You must learn to be incredibly comfortable with being the villain in someone else's story. When you drop the guillotine and cut a toxic person out of your life, they will scream that you are cruel. They will tell everyone how heartless you are. You must let them scream. You must completely abandon the desperate need to be universally liked. You realize that being hated by a predator is the highest compliment your character can ever receive. The ultimate victory over human manipulation is not remaining an innocent, bleeding saint on a battlefield of wolves. It is becoming a creature so profoundly dangerous, so heavily armed with uncompromising boundaries, that your kindness is no longer viewed as an invitation to feed, but as a privilege that must be violently earned. Think carefully about the last time you forgave someone who absolutely did not deserve it, just because you couldn't stand the thought of them being mad at you. How quickly did their gratitude mutate into pure contempt? Share your darkest survival stories in the comments below, and let us expose these invisible architectures of power together. Subscribe to Human Noir. Join the elite few who see human nature exactly as it is, and refuse to be played as pawns by the predators who weaponize your peace. Until next time, guard your reality, arm your kindness, and always remember, a predator only hunts the weak. The moment you show them your teeth, they will find an easier meal.